In a world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways. Moya light, Moya bright. Welcome back to Moya podcast, guys. Thank you so much for all your support. We see you. The channel is growing. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. And it will be even better if you join as a member. It's 20 Rand a month, and then you can help us keep oiling us so that we can give you the most. It's always such a pleasure because I always give you guys the guests that are going to make you sound intelligent in whatever room you walk into. We've had Mr. Ronald Dalton before, and then we actually had him twice, and there's been a lot of like noise around him with the Jewish people trying to shut down his work and stuff. But I just thought, let's just tone down the noise today and actually focus on his work. So the first time I introduced you to him, we were promoting his movie, Hebrews to Negroes. So I actually would like to start there. Who are we in the Bible? Mr. Ron, thank you for joining us once again.
No problem. We are the true Israelites of the Bible. Today they use the word Jews, but when you look at the Bible, you look at the sons of Jacob, and he had 12 sons. And it became known as the children of Israel in the Bible. And I know we use the word Israel today, but if you look at the Old Testament, it talks about the land of Canaan. And that when we left Egypt, that God was going to give us a land. And this land was a land of milk and honey, a good land, a large land, a land that had all these different things in it. And when you look at the story of the Bantu people and how it traces back to Egypt, then you can use that and other things that I put out in the movie and the books that prove that we are the Israelites. So, you know, when people say who are the original Jews, then, you know, I teach that it's us, Black people in sub-Saharan Africa, the Bantu people.
When you say that the Bantu people are connected to Egypt, please can you start us from there? Because what do you mean, like?
Yeah, so with the story in the Bible, Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, and then his brothers came with him eventually, and they stayed in Egypt for hundreds of years, and then afterwards we see in the Bible that Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. And so we stayed in Egypt for a long time, enough to where we would intermarry with their women. We would learn their customs, their traditions, even learn their language. And so all of that is intertwined in Bantu customs and culture and dress and language, in addition to the Hebrew element that makes the basis and the foundation of the Bantu culture. So, it's Jacob only had one daughter, Dinah, and if she's an Israelite, then her brothers were Israelites too. So when you look at that, they didn't have at the time, other cousins and second and third cousins to intermarry in Egypt. They came there with just the 12 sons of Jacob and their wives. And so, the men had to intermarry with the locals in the land, which would have been the Egyptians, the Cushites in Sudan. And so when they left as a numerous people. And the Bible says that they were a mixed multitude that also left with Moses when they came down south into sub-Saharan Africa. And so, that can be proven that we have Egyptian in us as well in our DNA on the mother side. and then you can look at some of the staffs that you see in South Africa and other areas in Africa. You can look at the leopard skins. You can look at some of the language loan words that we took from the Egyptians, and even some of the customs that the Egyptians would do, like when somebody dies, they shave their head off, men and women. And the Most High said don't do as the Egyptians by shaving your hair off for the dead. We still do this to this day. So a lot of these things are historical, and you can actually see this with your own eyes in Africa. It just so happens that when you look at the Bible and you go to church in America or Africa, that the Christianity that we are taught is everything white. White Jesus, white angels, white Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, everything is white. So, when you go to church at the Rima or Soweto Grace Bible Church, and you ask the members there, you say, well, who are you in the Bible? Black man. They're not going to know. They're going to say Egypt, Cush, Canaan, or they just say we're Gentiles. And Gentile is just a term for non-Israelites. Everybody outside of the Israelites are considered Gentiles. So, these are the things that have been taught for over 1,000 years. And it's time that now we start to learn who we are, because it ties into why things happened in the past with colonialism and slavery, even oppression that we still see to this day in Africa, in America, and the Caribbean, is tied into the Bible. And then also what is coming down the pipeline in the world, but more specifically to the Bantu people and their descendants in the African diaspora.
Okay, so I'm trying to connect, because we're trying to understand spirituality, and we've been indoctrinated with Christianity. Mm-hmm. However, we don't know how we connect to the Bible. Like, you're now saying we are the Israelites, and we're like, no, but the Israelites, the way we've been taught, they're different color, like they're more like the Arabs. Mm-hmm. So unpack for us like we are 5 years old.
Okay, so when you look at the Bible, if the white people were the original Jews, then they would have evidence in their DNA on the mother side that they mixed with the Canaanites, they mixed with the Cushites, they mixed with the Egyptians, and these were all the sons of Ham. And the land of Ham is Africa. So when you look at...
What are the sons of Ham?
Okay, so Ham had 4 sons. He had Mitzrayim, which was Kemet or Egypt. He had Put, which was Libya. He had Canaan, and then he had Cush, and Cush was in Sudan. So when you look at the original Egyptians today, even though it's been a lot of mixing, you will see them in the Somalians and a lot of the Nilotic, Cushitic speaking tribes in East Africa and the African Great Lakes that are not Bantu. They don't speak the Bantu language. And there's a lot of them. And then when you look at the sons of Cush, then you got to go to Sudan. But don't look at the black Arabs in North Sudan, because they came from Arabia and conquered. But look at the ones in South Sudan, the ones that are really dark, they're tall, they had different traditions and customs, different language, different DNA. These are the true sons of Cush. And then you look at the sons of Canaan. The sons of Canaan in the Bible, they had a lot of sons. If you look at the sons listed in Genesis chapter 10, and you look at the sons of the Egyptians, the sons of the Cushites, the sons of the Canaanites, and the Puttites, you'll see that the Canaanites had all these sons. They had the Perizzites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Hittites.
These like clans?
Yeah, clans.
Like how you'd have
yeah.
Xhosa,
clans.
Zulu?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. All right.
And so the Canaanites got the largest portion of Africa, from the west of Libya, so Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and then extending the borders along the whole African coast. So the Atlantic Ocean, going past Mauritania and Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and then going all the way down into Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, coming down Cameroon, and then to Gabon, and then to Zaire or Congo, Angola, and then all the way down to South Africa, and then back up to Mozambique, and then into the Kenya and the Tanzania, Ethiopia area. So the land of Canaan was large. So this land was essentially the fertile land of Africa, because the northern part of Africa is the desert, and the Sahel is like mostly desert too. When you look at Chad and Niger and Mali and Mauritania, and then some of the northern parts of Nigeria and Burkina Faso. But Canaan was the little black people living in sub-Saharan Africa, and the Khoisan and the African Pygmy, they were in sub-Saharan Africa before the Bantu people got there. So when the Bantu people came from the north and went south along the Nile River, they ran into the small black people in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Cameroon, in the CAR, in the Congo, in Malawi, Rwanda, Burundi, and other areas. They were there. The people in Malawi, the Chua people, they call them the Akafula. And the Akafula means the little black people or the short people. And they also say that they're the honey collectors because they climb the trees and they smoke them out, the bees, and they collect the honey and they eat the honeycomb, wait for it. And you know, when you look at the Bible, it says that the land of Canaan is the land of milk and honey. And, you know, that's exactly what you see in Africa when you look at the countries that produce the most livestock or milk and then honey. So when you look at the DNA of the African Pygmy clans, like the Biaka, the Mbuti, the Bukola, the Efe, there's ones like in other areas, they had different clan names, but when you look at their DNA, you look at the DNA of the Hadza people in Tanzania and the Sandaway in Tanzania and the Dahola Khoisan people in Kenya. So the Khoisan is not only in South Africa, they're also people in Kenya that have the same DNA as them, and they look like them, and they have the click languages like them. And they've actually studied the skeletons inside caves and outside caves in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Cameroon, and they've attached their DNA to the Bushmen, to the Khoisan and the African Pygmy, dating back thousands of years. But their maternal DNA that the women have in their clans is seen in our DNA. Even the DNA of the Cushites, the DNA that is seen in the mummies of Egypt, the pharaoh and the queen, like the mother, the women, the maternal DNA, their DNA can be seen in our DNA, so that we are the product of mothers that came from Egypt and Canaan and Cush. So if you're a real Israelite or a real Jew, then you have to have that in your DNA. It has to show forth that the children of Israel mixed for over 1,000 years with the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Cushites, and the DNA should show forth. And we know that back in ancient times that Moses, when he led the Israelites out of Egypt, there's a story where they were performing all these miracles And the Israelites were hard-headed, and they didn't believe in Yah, in the Creator, in the Most High. And so then God told Moses to stick your hand in my bosom. And then he did that. And then he took it out, and his hand was white as snow. And then he said, put your hand back in my bosom. And he put his hand in God's bosom, and he took it out, and his hand would turn back to his normal complexion. And, you know, when the Israelites saw this sign, they were like, wow, how can Moses, a black man, put his hand in God's bosom and then take it out, and then it's white? You know, if he was already white and he did that, then it wouldn't have been no miracle. They would have said, well, we don't see any change, so what's the miracle? But even then, in those days, when Joseph was with the Egyptians and his brothers came during the famine to get grain, Joseph stood there and didn't say anything amongst the Egyptians. And his brothers didn't recognize him standing there. And Joseph, at the time, he used an interpreter to the Egyptians to talk to his brothers. And his brothers, even though some years had passed, they didn't know that it was their brother standing right in front of them, because Joseph was the same complexion as the Egyptians. And so if Joseph was a white man standing amongst a group of black people, and the Jews were white, then they would have said, oh, he's one of us. But that's not the case. So in the Bible, we have to, you know, look at the things that are real, and the things that make sense, that we can look in reality and see in the museums in Egypt, that the pharaohs laying in the tombs, that they are black. The pharaohs in the tombs, the mummies, they're not just skeletons, because a skeleton doesn't have skin on their hands. A skeleton doesn't have fingernails. A skeleton doesn't have eyelids. A skeleton doesn't have a nose. A skeleton doesn't have an ear. Mm-hmm. A skeleton doesn't have hair. So when you look at the mummy, you're not seeing a hole right here for the nose, mm-hmm. and a hole for the ear, and you're not seeing lips. You're just seeing teeth, and you're not seeing a forehead. You're seeing the skull, mm-hmm. and you're not seeing hair and the skin that goes over the sides of the head, the back of the head, because you're seeing the skin on the head and the hair. So the mummies in Egypt, when they're laying there in the tombs, you can see their hands and their feet and their arms, and you can see that they're black people. So we have to understand that if we mix with the Egyptians for hundreds of years, and the Canaanites, which were the brothers of the Egyptians, and even the Cushites, because Moses had a wife named Zipporah, and it says she was a Cushite. And then because I think it was Aaron or Aaron made a complaint about Moses marrying Zipporah, then no, it was Miriam. Then Miriam. One of them got turned to leprosy, or turned white, and they had to tell God, please change your skin back to black, because they were, kind of upset that Moses had married a Cushite. So when you look at all these things and just look at the Bible in general, then you should be able to use critical thinking and logic and understand that the real Israelites were black and not white.
You know what's confusing me? How are we supposed to read the Bible, like in a supernatural way? Because now you're like turning black and you're turning white and you're turning black, and then it's just like, whoa, what's going on,
Well, the oral history of the Bantu people was, passed down orally. So, the Bible is a translation of an original history that happened. And when the Greeks and the Romans and the English gave us the Bible in their languages, then, we have to, look at the fact that, okay, even though orally the Bantu people can't recite the whole Bible stories from beginning to Malachi, but there is elements in the Bantu oral history that states how they left Egypt, They were under oppression. There was a lot of famine in the land. And then a leader led them out of Egypt, and he had a magic stick, and they crossed the body of water, and they wandered in Africa, settling in different areas like Zimbabwe and Botswana, Namibia, Central Africa, you know, and even.
How do you know this? Because that's not written in the Bible.
Oh well, a lot of my friends are in different countries in Africa, like Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Congo, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Ghana, Nigeria, and they all have their oral histories on how they got to where they are today. And a lot of them talk about the little black people, the giants that were in the land when you know, before they got there. Also, you know, how they came to do all these things like circumcision on the 8th day, name me a child in the 8th day. In the ancient times, there were certain animals you couldn't eat, like the pig and the horse and the donkey, and other things. Certain fish you couldn't eat. Also, you know, how they had to do cleansing ceremonies for when you have somebody that dies, ceremonial rites, you know, shrines and altars and sacrifices. Also, the dress, even, you know, you'll see stuff like this in the Congo and in Ghana and Cameroon and Tanzania, in Sierra Leone. They call them their own word, but you know, and this was in the book of Numbers, 15:38. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff that they talk about, you know, basically you can read it and see it in the Bible, but they're not going to give you the whole story of all the books like Chronicles and Kings and Zephaniah and Jeremiah and Isaiah. But when you look at all the accounts and narratives and history told by the people in these sub-Saharan African countries, you can't look at all of this and take it and not say that this is basically what the Bible is talking about. The spirituality in the Bible is there with the prophets and how they interacted with the Most High, the Creator, the miracles that happened, the ways that they had to appease God, and they had to, you know, do things that God wanted them to do, whether it was sacrificing an animal, getting the first fruits of their harvest, even human sacrifice in the case of Isaac and Abraham. You know, these kind of things existed in ancient Bantu history, which was the Bible. Even when you look at the divination or the priesthood or the healers or the medicine man, we might call them voodoo people today. A lot of the things that they're doing, you'll see some of that in the Bible, like Moses sprinkled blood on the Israelites and made them take an oath. And if you do that today, they're going to say you're doing some kind of witchcraft. You know, sacrificing animals and getting the blood and sacrificing the fat or certain things today would seem as though you're appeasing a false deity or a god. But in the ancient times, the Israelites were accustomed to doing these things. You know, the story of Samuel and King Saul and how he wanted to conjure up the spirit of Samuel, and he went to the witch of Endor and to see if he can talk to Samuel from the dead, from the grave on the other side. And even though he tried to conceal, meaning King Saul tried to conceal why he needed the help of the witch of Endor, it still shows you that even in those days, when they had the first king of Israel, that they were still trying to contact the ancestors, because they didn't have any prophet, at least that he was looking at. And then they were trying to cast lots and do different things to get a sign from God, and it wasn't happening. So then they said, okay, if God's not answering us this way, then we need to contact the ancestors. And these are all things that are talked about in the Bible that you'll see still practiced in Bantu culture. So, all of this stuff is really, and when you look at reality, you can see it in the Bantu culture, and it's in the Bible. And there's no other group of people on the earth that has all the same, they're doing all the same things that the ancient Israelites did, except for in the continent of Africa.
This is so fascinating. So basically, when we do like what we call umsebenzi, which is like when we slaughter and stuff, and then the Christians call it demon worship. So therefore, it's like, wow, because in the Bible it's there. So
they're going to the mountain, getting circumcised, coming back. All these things that they did, the Europeans demonized, and they said it's pagan. Don't do that. All these practices of taking your shoes off in the place of worship, burning incense, and other things, that you see in the Bible. They had the menorah candle, the table for showbread, and, the Ark of the Covenant, and all these things that were happening in ancient times. If you were to see these things happening today, like if a man made a river part, or if a man hit a rock with a stick and then water came out, if a man turned his stick into a snake, if a man, made the sun stay still for like, a half a day or a whole day, if a man, did all these things, made fire come down from heaven, then you would say that man is possessed or he's working in black magic. If someone was to do that today, if a man walked on water, you will say that this is black magic. If a man made water turn into wine, you would say that he's doing some kind of magic, and get away from him. So all these things that were happening in the Bible that the Israelites were doing, and even Christ was doing, today we saw that, we will say this is witchcraft and magic. But it just goes to show you that the things that were happening in the old days still happen to this day. Whether we know how to explain it or not, there are things that is happening in Africa that magicians can't explain. Even the ones that are not real magicians, they just do like tricks to fool the eye. These things are, in Africa, and it goes along with all the other things that they're doing that is in the Bible and the history that states that they left Egypt and came here. And that's exactly the story of the Israelites.
what I'm hearing you say is that the Bantu people left the top of Africa and went around like almost along the coastline and all the way.
Yeah.
And that is their stories collectively make up the Bible.
Yeah.
So then how do these stories collectively, I know we've been through this before, but how do these stories collectively get put together and now get used against black people?
Because the white race, the white man, I think when the Greeks were on the scene in the Romans, that's when things were able to change. And they knew who we were. And they knew that if they can control the narrative by authorizing and translating the book that the world's going to have access to, not the oral history that people are talking about in the village, passing it down to their generations, but the people that controls the book in the making of a literary work called the Old Testament. If they could authorize it, translate it, and then take some of the history that they had learned from the Bantu people, and then add stuff to it change stuff, delete stuff, word it differently, so that today, as the Bible progressed from Greek to Latin to English, then this is the reason why the Greeks in the Septuagint, they had the word camel, they had the word giraffe, they had the word rhinoceros. These were all in the land of Canaan, under the Greek name that you'll see used. But nevertheless, when you look at the King James Bible of 1611 in English, and even in the Latin Bible, you'll see in the Bible that they have footnotes, and the footnotes will let you know what it used to be called. So in the King James Bible of 1611, it has the word unicorn, but then on the footnote on the side, it says rhinoceros. And we know that the Israelites were in the wilderness in the book of Numbers. And then they were in the land of Canaan, and they mentioned rhinoceros, and there's no rhinos in Israel. And we know that in the Bible, if the ancient Greek book said that when you get into the land of Canaan, you can eat certain animals like the antelope, the stag, the goat, the impala, and the giraffe. It says this. It says the word giraffe in there. But when you look at the newer translations, they took the word giraffe out. And when you look at some of the older translations, they had the African ibis, which was the bird that the Egyptian god Thoth is made after. And then you look at the words like hyena.
Please go into that.
Yeah. So in the Greek Septuagint, they had birds like heron, crane, the African ibis. They had, of course, they still have hyena. They have a jackal. They have ostrich. They have elephant. They have lion. They have leopard. They have crocodile. So you see all these animals in the Bible, in the Greek Bible, but then over time, into the Bible we read today, these words have kind of been deleted out, deleted, so that when you look at lions and leopards and rhinos and a wild ass is a zebra, because an ass is a donkey, and the donkey and the zebra are in the same family. And a donkey or an ass is domesticated. It's a domesticated animal. A zebra, which is like a larger donkey, is not domesticated. So it's a wild ass, but it has stripes. And they change these words so that you don't connect the African buffalo, the zebra, the rhino, the elephant, the lion, the leopard. Because
these animals are indigenous to here.
Yeah. So
therefore you would make the connection that it's from here.
Yes. And not Israel. Because in Israel, even the word bear, they have a museum in the Western Cape that they built on an archaeological site. And on the archaeological site, they found a whole lot of bear skeletons. Bear. So bears used to live in South Africa along with lions. And they have a museum here in South Africa that has the proof of the bear skeletons right there in the museum. And in the Bible, David is tending to his flock of his father, Jesse, and a lion and a bear come to get the sheep or the lamb. And David rescues the sheep from the mouth of a bear and a lion. Now, if bears and lions were living together at one point in time in the Bible, in Israel, then why don't we see lions and bears in Israel today? You see lions here in South Africa, and the museum in the Western Cape has the bear skeletons right here to show you that the African bear, because that's what it's called, the African bear, not the Atlas bear in North Africa, but the African bear in sub-Saharan Africa existed. And the bears were seen in West Africa, in East Africa, in Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda. It's just that when the white man came into Africa, they hunted a lot of these bears and killed them.
My God.
Just like they came into Africa and they killed a lot of elephants for the ivory. So these things are still here in Africa, and we just don't research and look at these things, because we look at the news and we look at Israel, and we see Jerusalem, the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and we think to ourselves, well, it must be the land of Israel because I'm looking at it on TV. But there's fine details that you gotta really pay attention to. Like in Israel, there is no Mount Zion. Like Mount Zion is supposed to be the highest of the mountains in Israel. And the Bible describes Mount Zion as a high mountain, beautiful in elevation and height. So in the Bible, Mount Zion is a mountain that the Israelites would be astonished. They would look at the mountain and say, "Ooh, look at this big mountain with snow at the top," because it's so high. But in Israel today, it does not exist. There's no Mount Zion. Mount Zion is a city. It's not a mountain. Mount Olives and all these things that the Jews call mountains it's just like a city on a high elevation. But the elevation is not high enough to be called a mountain, because if that were the case, then the elevation for Mount Zion is 3 times less than the elevation of Johannesburg and Pretoria and Krugersdorp. So why aren't we calling Pretoria and Johannesburg and Krugersdorp Mount Johannesburg, Mount Pretoria, Mount Krugersdorp? But in Israel, they call a little area that's a higher elevation, it's a mountain. And that's how they deceive you.
So where would have been the mountain then?
Mount Zion, well, when you look at the Bible, in Psalms 125, 1 to 2, it says that Jerusalem is surrounded by mountains. And the word Jerusalem is a mixture of 2 words. It's Yerah, Y-E-R-E-H, which means Yah will provide, and then Salem. And Salem means peace, peace. And in the Kikongo language, Salembe means to do peace, to do peace. And so you'll see the word shalom, shalom, salama, salem. So the word Jerusalem means God will provide peace, or a land of peace, or a territory of peace. And the Bible says that Jerusalem, or this land, was going to be surrounded, encircled by mountains on all sides. And the only place in Africa that has mountain belts in a circle is in Central Africa. So you have Lake Victoria, and then around Lake Victoria, you have all these mountain belts. And the mountain belts have mountains. And so the mountain belts, or the mountains, encompass Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Burundi, Congo, in a circle. And in this area, you can look at a topographical map of Africa from the satellite. You will see all these lakes: Lake Victoria, Lake Albert, Lake Edward, Lake George, Lake Kivu, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Maruru, Lake Malawi. You see all these lakes. In the Bible, and there's rivers within these lakes. And the Bible says that the land of Canaan is a land of lakes, springs, rivers, streams, brooks, and waterfalls. And that's not in Israel. That's here. The smallest lake in Africa is still larger than the Sea of Galilee, which is not really a sea, it's a lake. And the smallest lake in Africa, like in Central Africa, like Lake Kivu or Lake Mororo, these lakes are bigger than the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee. And both of these bodies of water are not really seas, but the Jews call them seas. And the Bible says that the land of Canaan is a land of oceans, meaning that the land is going to be accessible to all these oceans. And the land of Canaan on the western side, the southern side, and the eastern side has oceans. The Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and Israel only has the Mediterranean Sea, and that's it. That's all it has. And so when you look at all these things, you know, even the fact that our DNA, the DNA of the Pygmies, the DNA of the Khoisan, is here. It's not in Israel. And when you look at the people today that practice circumcision the most out of all the races on earth, it's Bantu people. From Senegal to Nigeria to Congo to Rwanda to Zambia and Kenya and Tanzania, Uganda, down to South Africa, we are the ones practicing circumcision. And it's a rite of passage. The white man didn't teach us this. And so there's a lot of things that the white man didn't teach us, but we practice still to this day. And one of the things I like to show in the movie, in the books, and on H2NTV.com, is all the Hebrew words that can be seen in the coastal language, in the Kikongo language, in Swahili, in the Ewe language, in the Igbo language, in the Wolof language, in the Temne language, in the Zambia, in the Kaunde Bemba language. It's there. It's there. You just got to know how to find it and to make the connection. But even when the words do not match up word for word with a Hebrew word, when you look at the meaning of the word, the meaning of the word corresponds exactly to the Bible. You'll find out that it means something related to the Bible. Like if you look at the word Yaandi or Yaounde in the Kikongo language, Yaounde or Yaandi means the one we praise, as king or God. And in the Hebrew, that's Yehudi or Yehuda or Judah. So in the Kikongo language, Yaounde or Yaandi, in Hebrew, it's Judah or Yehuda, means the one we praise. And when you look at the word Jacob, Jacob in the Kikongo language is Simba. And Simba means the one who holds the heel. Jacob, when was born, he was holding the heel of Esau. Esau came out first. Jacob was holding his heel. And even though in Hebrew, Jacob is Jakub, but in the Kikongo word for Jacob, Simba, it actually has a meaning. It doesn't just mean Simba. It has a meaning, even though in Swahili, Simba means lion. And we look at Nkosi in Kikongo means lion. And I think here it means king or chief or ruler. Yeah. So the Lion of Judah, the one that holds the scepter, he is the king. He is the king of the Jews. Christ came through the Lion of Judah, and he is the king of the Israelites, the king of the Jews. And so Nkosi in the Kikongo means lion, but you see in another Bantu tongue, it means a king or chief or a ruler. So you see the similarities in these words. Just like when we did the Soweto premiere, the lady from the Congo said Nkulu means ancestor. in their language. And so she said, if you say Nkulu Nkulu, it means the ancestor of ancestors, or God, the Most High, because he is the original ancestor. And she broke down the word Zulu and other languages that the Bantu people speak here, and she tied the Bantu languages here in South Africa, or the Nguni languages, to Kikongo. And she said there's a similarity in all the Bantu languages, whether it's Venda, Shona, Lemba, Remba, Songa. She said it doesn't matter. It's all connected to one root language. And that root language, if you go back far enough, is the ancient Hebrew that we were speaking and writing thousands of years ago.
And then the Hebrew, is that not Arab?
No, well, you have ancient Hebrew, and then you had modern Hebrew, and then you had Aramaic, and then you had Kufic, and then you had Arabic. So Arabic is like a child language of Hebrew. Without Hebrew, you wouldn't have Arabic. Without Hebrew, you wouldn't have Aramaic. Without Hebrew, you wouldn't have Kufic, spoken in Iraq and the South Arabian script.
That's on one. So those people that look like that, what are they? Because
the white people?
Are they white people? Because
in Israel?
There's three races, right? The yellow, brown, and then the Caucasian.
Yeah.
So when I'm speaking about Arabs, I'm speaking about those...
The white Arabs. The white Arabs, right?
The ones with the outfits and So where are they from, and how come they have
they're from
infiltrated?
So the white Jews and the white Arabs. The white Arabs come from Central Asia, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, these areas in the east of the Caspian Sea.
So they would be Caucasians that sort of adapted and then inbred with the local blacks.
They migrated to the west, and when they migrated to Asia Minor, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, then they adopted the religion of Islam, and with that, they learned the language of Islam, Arabic. And the Jews, they migrated from Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan.
These are like Eastern European countries?
No, it's Central Asia.
Oh, still in Asia.
Yeah, and then they migrated to Ukraine and into Germany and the Slavic Germanic lands. And then they were converted. They converted to Judaism. And then when they converted to Judaism from their pagan religion, then they adopted the language of Judaism, which was Hebrew. So they simply assimilated and adopted the culture that the Bible spoke of and the language attached to that culture, which was Hebrew. And today they call themselves Jews. And we in Africa were labeled African, Bantu, Niger Congo, Negro. But when you look at our DNA, when we look at our language, we look at our traditions and customs. In the book of Leviticus 25, it says that an Israelite can lease his land for 50 years of Jubilee. And after 50 years, then the land has to come back to the owner. And then so like here in Africa and even in Ghana and Congo and Kenya, if you want to get land, a chief or a king can give you the land for 50 years on the indenture, and he can sign it, you can sign it, but after 50 years, you have to renew it. And so when you see the Chinese and the Indians getting land for like 99 years or 50 years, it's because in the Bible, you can't sell the land. You can't sell the land forever to the white man or the Indians or the Chinese or the Dutch or the Jews. He can lease the land, but in that case, when he leases the land, you're going to get something out of it because he's going to have to pay you to lease the land. But you see this practice only done in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is in Leviticus 25. This is in the Torah. And this is something that the white man and the white Jews didn't tell the Ghanaian, Ashanti, Fanti, Ewe, Ga, the Igbos, or the Kikongo, or the Zulu, hey, when you sell land, you're not supposed to sell it. You can lease it for 50 years. No, they didn't teach them this. This is already in their culture. So these are all things that the Israelites did that is in the Bible that the Bantu people do.
Jesus. And that's why they want Roman Dutch law, huh?
Yeah. So they had to instill their law, Roman law, which was the law of the land, and do away with customary cultural law, which if you commit adultery, you get stoned to death. If you are accused of adultery, then you have the medicine man or the diviner put together a concoction, and then the lady drinks it. If she dies, she was adulterous. If she drinks it, nothing happens, then she was telling the truth. She was accused improperly, and the potion that the priest has to give the lady to drink shows that she is innocent. And this is in the Bible as well. And this is practiced in Zimbabwe, it's practiced in Ghana, it's practiced in Nigeria, where a woman accused of adultery has to have a priest or diviner put together a concoction that if it kills her, she's an adulteress. This is in the Bible, but the Bantu people are doing this naturally, and the white man didn't tell them this. The Jews didn't have a school and teach them this. Because when the white man came to Africa, the black man didn't have the King James Bible. He couldn't look through the Bible and say, okay, it's right here. Let's do exactly what the Bible says. He didn't have that, but he was already doing these things that the white man came and saw. And when he saw the Bantu people doing these things, he knew from reading the Bible that these people are doing Hebrew customs. And we have to somehow change their customs, make them believe that it's wrong, it's pagan, it's against the Bible, and we have to change their mindset. We have to give them a narrative that they believe us. Blessed. Let's say blessed are the meek and the poor, for their reward is in heaven. And slaves, obey your masters. So all these things that the Belgium and the Dutch and the British and other nations came with the Bible, they taught us that everything that was happening to us was justified in the Bible, and that Jesus is right. This is better, and people believed it. And so when you look at 100 years later, you go to the Rima church, and you see all these black people in the church, and white people and Indians. You see the white pastor. You see the white choir director directing black people, like the black people that can't direct themselves. And you see the collection plate being handed out to thousands of people in that church. And they're not teaching black people in their church that you are the children of God. This is the Holy Land. You are the Israelites. The Bible is about you. And they're not teaching these things, because the Bible even says that the other nations were going to divide up God's land, meaning Africa, rename it, make new boundaries, and it says that they are going to sell the people in that land into slavery. It says in the book of Joel. In the book of Joel, it says that you have divided my land and sold my people by slavery. And it says that in the Bible, the way that they decided how they were going to carve up and divide the land was by random selection, by casting lots. So they were going to sit together at a table at the Berlin Conference or the Congo Basin Conference, and all these nations, the French, the British, the Portuguese, the Belgium, the Dutch, they were all going to sit down at a table, and they're going to say, what do you want? Oh, I want Mozambique. I want Angola. What do you want? I want Nigeria. I want this area. I want that area. I want this area. And they were all going to say, okay, It's all good. Let's go down there and get it. And that's how they divided up the land of Africa, and they renamed it and created borders. And then with the borders, they had to create the visa passport law, so that now you can't move freely to other countries. And they had to naturalize and make themselves citizens, so that now they're already considered citizens because they colonized the land, so they have equal rights to being a citizen and have a passport because they colonized the land. They let you become free, and when the countries became free, they didn't revoke their status of being now a visitor or tourist like we do, like African Americans. And so this is how they control the trade between countries and people, so that whoever's in power and they control the visa passport system, then they can control who the countries do business with. So if you have white people in the Home Affairs office, yeah, they're gonna say, let's let the Ukrainians in. Yeah, let's let the Jews in. Let's let these people in. But then when African Americans try to submit their application, they get denied. It just shows you how the cards are stacked against us, and they've been doing this since day one. They had a plan, and the plan is to divide us, so that now we're not one people, we're divided. I'm a South African, I'm Namibian, I'm Malawian, I'm Congolese, I'm Nigerian, I'm Ghanaian, I'm Kenyan.
So I want to understand now, because because it sounded like this community you're speaking about then ended up in Germany and Ukraine and stuff, and that's when Hitler comes in and starts his things. So then, do they move to Israel in all of that?
Yeah, they do. After the Holocaust, then they had the British put together the Balfour Declaration, which stated that the Jews needed a homeland because of persecution. In their homeland, they pondered on what they wanted. Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, he said in his diaries that we looked into Uganda, we looked into Ethiopia, we looked into Egypt. They even looked into a larger area in Africa that was about the size of the Congo, the RC, the DRC, and Angola, because they measured the size of land that they wanted in Africa, and the size that they had written was larger than Uganda, larger than Kenya, larger than Ethiopia, larger than Tanzania. The size that they listed was like the size of the Congo and other surrounding countries, but ultimately they decided on Israel for their homeland. And so, up until now, you see the fighting that's going on in Israel with the Palestinians, who are essentially Ottoman Turks. They're Turks, like the people in Turkey. They're the same people, just different areas of the world that they're living in. They still speak Arabic, and they drop their mother tongue Turkish, because in Turkey they still speak Arabic and Turkish. So the same people that migrated to Turkey, they migrated to Iraq, Iran, Palestine, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan. It's the same people. That's why they look the same. But what people fail to understand is that in the Bible, it tells us that in the future, that there are certain nations that are going to wake up one day and they're going to have an evil thought in their mind, an evil plan, an evil device. And they're going to say, let us go to the land, let us go to God's land, the land of unwalled villages, a land having neither bars nor gates, a land where the people are dwelling in peace, rest, and safety. And it says that these nations are going to come and cover the land like a cloud. Many people are going to come to this land, God's land. And it lists these nations in Ezekiel 38. And the nations that it lists that are connected to nations that we see today are Russia, China, India, the Arabs, the Jews, and the European nations that are a part of NATO and the G7. So when you look at France, you look at Britain, you look at Spain, you look at Portugal, you look at the Dutch, you look at the Germans, you look at all these nations, Germany, it says and it prophesies in the Bible that these nations are going to come to the land of Canaan, the land of the Israelites, the Bantu people, and they're going to cover the land like a cloud. And it says that these nations, when they come to Africa, they're going to spoil, plunder, steal. And it says in the book of Ezekiel that they're coming to steal the land and the livestock on the land and all the possessions that the Bantu people acquired when they migrated to sub-Saharan Africa. So all the waterfalls, all the lakes, all the rivers, all the sunlight, all the minerals in the ground, the mineral rights that is in the ground that the Bantu people now become the possessors of the land, they're going to want that too, and they're going to steal it. It says it's in the Bible. It says it in the Bible that they're going to come and take the minerals of the land. They're not going to ask for it kindly, and then we decide, okay, you can have it. No, it says that they're going to steal it. The coltan, the aluminum, the graphite, the copper, the tin, the zinc, the gold, the silver, the diamonds, all these things. It says that they're going to take. They're just going to take it, and they're going to put together schemes and devices and plans and ways that they can get this from the Bantu people. And this is happening right now. The Arabs, the Jews, the East Indians, from the north that control the Indian government, the French, the USA, all of these things, it's all people with their shopping baskets coming to Africa. So whether we look at BRICS, and then you see countries like the Congo and Botswana that have close ties to the United States of America and France, but then the same token, their trade partners are China, India, the Jews, the United States, and other countries that they have to do business with when trading amongst each other, even South Africa. So when you look at Botswana receives imports from South Africa, from China, from India. You go to Botswana, you see a lot of Indians there. You'll see the Chinese are there too. The Jews are there, the Beers, they're there. And a lot of the imports come from South Africa to Botswana, and Botswana is connected to the United States of America, just like Ghana, other countries are. So whether it's United States or Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS, we have to understand the genealogy. When you look at Brazil is connected to the Kingdom of Portugal. And the Kingdom of Portugal is connected to the Germanic people, listed as the House of Burgundy. The House of Burgundy is part of the same Eastern Germanic languages that is tied to the British royal family. Queen Victoria, William III, Queen Elizabeth II, Prince William, all of these German houses, the House of Habsburg, the House of Lorraine, the House of Sluppenberg, all these Germanic houses existed from 1,000 years ago, all the way to the House of Wettin, all these houses. These are all German houses that the royal family are descendants of. And when you tie this all back, it ties into the Kingdom of Portugal and the Kingdom of Brazil. It ties back to the same nations in the Bible that it says that they're gonna create an alliance. These nations are gonna create an alliance. The Jews, the Arabs, Russia, Brazil, India, China, the European countries, they're all gonna have an alliance. And their alliance, their main goal is Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa. They don't care about Libya and Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. They don't care about these lands. They don't care about lands where it's the desert, because they can't do nothing with the Sahara Desert. The only thing they can do with like Burkina Faso and other countries is to get the gold. But when they really want to get everything that the land has to offer is in sub-Saharan Africa. And you can look at the satellite image of Africa and see where is the land green and where is the land brown. Because where the land is green is where it's the best land for farming, for all these different things, because the northern part of Africa is the desert. It's just dust. There's no water there. There's no rivers, no lakes. There's nothing there. So all of these nations have their eyeballs looking directly at Africa and how they can provide food security and overall sustainability for their country, because they know that in the future they cannot survive as a country unless they have their foot in Africa, and not so that African people can benefit and win. Because at the end of the day, if I come to Botswana and with a diamond deal, and the Jews say, you got diamonds, we can mine it, we can refine it, you get 10%, I get 90. No, a person that's being fair, that loves you, will say, no, you can get 80, give me 20. And you're going to win at the end of the day anyway, because without me, you wouldn't even have the diamonds. You know? So it's just the fact that we have to learn how to manufacture and create industries to where we can turn the raw materials like oil and these diamonds and the sunlight that can provide energy, and then the water that can provide energy to Africa, like the Congo River, the Orange River, the Nile River. All these things we can, if we learn how to harness what's in the ground and what's in the air, then Africa could be like a Wakanda. It really could. But the other nations ain't gonna let that happen. They're not gonna let that happen. Unless there's a fight, unless there's an awakening of the people in Africa, and the people in Africa start to say no more, leave. And if you don't want to leave, then these are our terms. And if you don't like it, then just go. And frankly, I think that we have the power, we have the numbers, we have the education and the knowledge to do this. You know, we can go to school, get educated how to do these things. It's just that the imperial powers do not want us to rise to the top. Yeah. So they keep us at a certain level, and they use social media to keep us distracted, so that we're not looking at the big picture and understanding how we're literally still under apartheid. We're still under oppression. We're still under slavery, even though we're not chained. So yeah.
Then before I let you go, because I'm so glad you brought it back to where we are today, like what's happening and everybody eating. And we've seen, like, without offending YouTube, the war, and we've seen how, like, Black people, the Bantu people, are not speaking up for loud enough.
No, they're not. They're quiet.
They're quiet.
Yeah.
So what is the breakdown with Israel, and why can they not see the crimes against humanity now?
It's ridiculous. I mean, you look at Palestine, you look at Hamas is not the whole Palestine, but yet Palestine is being destroyed. And then now Lebanon is under attack. And you got the United Nations, you got everybody watching. They're watching, the whole world's watching. And they're doing what they want to do. And it's like nobody can stop them. Imagine if that was in America, or in America, and some other country was just decimating New York City, or even if that was happening in some other country in Europe, Australia. They will say, this is not right. This is genocide. You know, we need to step in and help. We need to send troops, send in the peacekeepers, the UN. But it goes to show you what kind of world we're living in, and who controls the media at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we don't say enough stuff like we should. And when you look at Twitter and you look at all the comments, the Middle East and Iran and Israel, Palestine and Lebanon and Hamas and Hezbollah, This is endless. This is endless posts. You look at the Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in America, it's the same thing. But at the end of the day, we're not paying attention to how people are getting away with a lot of things. But then when I look in South Africa, and I've done this since I got here 3 years ago, it don't matter what store I go to. I can go to the Crazy Store, Pick and Pay, Woolworths, Plumlink, Rocco Mamas. I can go all these stores. I say, who owns this business? I ask the people that work there, we don't know. And I Google it. I already know the answer. I Google it and I show them. It's a Jewish man. Discam, all these places, it's owned by a Jewish person. Come on, guys, what's going on here? And then if it's not owned by a Jewish man, it's owned by an East Indian, an Arab, a Chinese. You look at all these apartment blocks and complexes, being built and opening up, all these units, unit A, B, C, D, E. Look at all these high rises, and you go and you inquire how to rent an apartment. How can I get in on this? And they give you the brochure. And you see a non-black person's face on there. And you say, wow, you look at the builders, like, oh, who's building these Helder Fontaine estates and Eagle Trace and Golf Estates, and you look at who's the builders, who's the owner. It's not us. And it's like when I go to the grocery stores, and I hate going to the grocery store because it means that I'm dependent on the food that most cases non-black people are bringing into the shop. And the shop is owned by a non-black person, but yet we are dependent on working and slaving to buy the food from non-black people in a black country. And when I hear people that say that they don't have any money for food, they don't have any money for petrol, they don't have any money for this, for the kids' school, and it's like, man, so no money means you can't eat. You can't eat. You can't put gas in your car. You can't send your kids to school, and that's a problem. It's a problem when the other races control everything, and you don't control nothing. So I think there has to be more town hall meetings, more conferences, workshops, seminars, where we start to figure out how we can regain power again. Because we're living in a land of milk and honey, or the land where everything you need is here. Because if it wasn't here, then why would the other nations be here?
Yeah.
Making money. They're making millions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. Trillions.
But yet they have a problem with me showing a movie at Soweto Theater to 400 black people. It's that much of a problem that they do not want this movie to be seen in South Africa. Ban the movie. But you guys are billionaires. You're millionaires. When you go to sleep at night, your bank account is big, and it constantly makes money. When you can travel to America, to Europe, to Israel, your bank account is constantly making money because your businesses is making money every single day of the week. KFC, Rocco Mamas, Nando's. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just think that South Africa needs a real awakening, and the youth we're preoccupied with the same things that we are in America. It's the same thing. And when you look at Netflix and you see the movies and the series and the shows, yeah, it's nice entertainment, but at the end of the day, it's making somebody else rich for our entertainment. So no matter if it's Black Panther or Shaka Ilembe or any series that they have, Black and Beauty, or Blood and Water, or Kings of Joburg, or anything. It's okay. It's nice. It's entertainment. But who's the CEO of Netflix? Who's the CEO of Amazon? Who's the founder of CEO of Netflix and Amazon? It's Jewish people, and they control what we see. Just like they control what we see on CNN, Newsweek, Fox, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. They control it all. So at the end of the day, as long as we're looking the other way, then they can continue their agenda, and that agenda is to keep making money, keep staying at the top, keep their foots on our neck so that we don't do anything, and we just complain, thinking that presidents presidents or politicians are gonna change anything. And we've seen for decades in America, in the Caribbean, in Africa, that a lot of the presidents and politicians have not changed the climate and the atmosphere of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Thank you so much. It's always so enlightening to sit with you, and we look forward to the next session. Thank you. Moya light, Moya bright. I think now we're getting closer and closer to understanding the Bible and the movement of Bantu people, guys. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Please do join the channel. It's only 20 Rand a month, and we can continue making you some awesome content. See you again next time.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely corner into e off. Buza umoya so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.